It would be great to have full-time, but full-time call staff on that. I probably can't.
We are here this morning for this special Northfield Fire District meeting. It is November 12th, 2022. We are at the West Palm Regional High School cafeteria. I would like to introduce Mike Seatar to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We can start it. Thank you, Chief. All right, we're going to try to best identify the correct distance from the microphone and not blow everybody out. Just quickly, is there anybody in the audience that's not a resident of Tilton or Northfield? Okay, good. Just know where they are, so please don't raise your hand to vote. When the time comes, we'll try to keep an eye on that. We have a reasonable, manageable assembly here today as far as the numbers go. So I have only appointed one assistant moderator, that's Lee Martinson from Northfield, and Stephanie and I will handle, for the most part, whatever we need to. I'd like to welcome everybody. My name is Kent Fenimore, I'm the moderator for the district. I'd like to introduce Mike Seatar, the chief of our fire department. Fire commissioners are Chairman Paul Ocher, Eric Pyra, and John Silly. Treasurer for the fire district is Tim Pearson. Clerk today is Stephanie Giovanucci. Thank you very much, Stephanie, for coming. The attorney for the fire district is Paul Fitzgerald. He's with us as well. Budget committee includes Jason Wright from Tilton, Jane Alden from Tilton, Kathleen Dawson from Tilton, and from Northfield, Kevin Waldron, Charles Broughton, and Scott Wendowski. Eric Pyra serves on the budget committee as well. I'm going to do sort of an abbreviated version of my usual spiel at the beginning of these meetings. I think you generally have an understanding of how I tend to handle things. We only have one article on the agenda, so reordering things and stuff like that is not an issue. Voting on amendments, motions, general motions during the course of the meeting can be done with voice vote or show of hands. But the final vote today is going to be by ballot vote. It doesn't necessarily have to be open for an hour, but we want to have a ballot vote under the circumstances for that. Just please put your cell phones on silent, if you will. Again, as always, please present your testimony with courtesy, respect for the entire assembly. Please only when recognized by the moderator. And I think I'm going to stop there as far as if things get out of hand, I can stop and go back through all my expectations for votes, etc. Any motion that's not debatable, which ends debate, which includes calling the question, that must be approved by a 2/3 majority. You have to go, if there's any doubt about a voice vote, you have to go count of hands if that's necessary. Everybody satisfied with that preamble for the meeting? Okay, then we'll get right to it. Special district meeting SP1, pressurized hydrants. To see if the district will vote to authorize the commissioners to become current through June 30th, 2022, and enter into a 3-year agreement beginning July 1st, 2022, and ending June 30th, 2025, in the amount of $523,322 for the purpose of providing pressurized hydrant services necessary for fire suppression, and raise and appropriate $256,000 for this year, with said funds to come from the December 31st, 2021 unassigned fund balance. This article is recommended by the Board of Commissioners and is not recommended by the Budget Committee. Majority vote is required. Is there a motion on the article? There hasn't been a motion on the article. All right. Is there a second? All right. Moved from Waldron, seconded by Jason Wright. Somebody care to speak to the article? Yes, sir. There is a motion to table. Who we second? All right, care to speak to your motion?
Is it appropriate to speak to a motion to table? I thought there was non-debatable.
You're right. That is, he is correct. All right, motion to table is non-debatable. So we have to move directly to the vote. We have to have a 2/3 majority to table this item. All right, ready for the vote? We'll try a voice vote first. Those in favor of tabling the article, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Moderator is definitely no. We need a 2/3 majority for this. So, Assistant Moderator, please. Those in favor of the motion to table the article, please raise your hands and keep them raised. Thank you. Hold your hands down. If you would, also use your cards if you would when you hold your hand up, please. And those opposed to the motion to table the article, raise your cards now, please. All right, we got the vote as being 26 in favor of the motion, 17 opposed, and that's 60% and not 66.7. So motion fails. Unless somebody would care to challenge the count. Seeing none, motion fails. Testimony on Article SB1. Pat.
Can I have somebody from the commissioners or chief to explain the process that has taken place up to this point?
Thank you, Pat. Somebody care to respond? John, please.
Yes, I can. So in 2021, it was placed as a warrant article taken out of the budget because of the contract was going over 3 years, so we couldn't put it into the budget as a 1-year obligation because you were crossing funds. That had a clause in it that it was signed off by the fire district and the water district that if the voters at that meeting chose to vote it down, it nullified the contract. That's what led us to this whole process at that point. And that vote missed by 1 vote. So at that point, that contract was null and void for that time period. Since then, there's been a lot of activity, court time, and things like that. depending on the outcome of this meeting today, could affect the court process that's going forward. So I'm going to be very cautious on some of that. So the commissioners from both entities met. We tried to discuss it in a non-working group. The amount was, there was a big separation of where these sewer commissioners, I'm mistake, the water district and the fire district. There was a very big divide between the two. So that came out of there. Then we proceeded to mediation. Mediation, in case people are not aware, that is where one body is in one room, another body is in another room, and a mediator, which was a retired judge, goes back and forth between the two. One of the first things the mediator tells us at the beginning of the day to each body, you will not be happy with the outcome. No one party is going to get everything they want. There was a lot of back and forth. There was an all-day event. We came out of that with an agreement. It was last minute, literally people leaving, but an agreement we came to, and that is what you see on the ballot before you. So this, what's on the ballot, is a known entity. If this goes before the judge and the judge approves it, then this will get us caught in the rears, according to what people feel from the mediation, and move forward a year or two. If it does not get voted on today, and it goes to court, there is a potential that a jury court trial could find that the contract was nullified and there's no past due monies or contract. Or it could be even worse, is there was a tariff study done by the sewer district. I am sorry for that, the water district. And so with that, the court could go all the way to even higher than what this bill is, or this warrant article is. So this is a known cost in front of you. If it's voted down, there is unknown costs that could be very little to very high. So that's part of where we're at with this. After the mediation, the fire district was hit with a RSA 91A request again. We thought it was all done with mediation. At that point, I don't know where we're going with this. The public, it's up to the public to decide if they want to go with this known, or if they want to take their chances and go to court for very little or very high. And I'll leave it at that. I don't want to go too far and step beyond.
Thanks very much, Sean. Further testimony? Yes, sir.
Can you just clarify what an RSA something?
Can I just get your name? RSA is the New Hampshire revised statutes annotated. So it's the law, the state laws. So RSA stands for state laws.
I'm sorry about that. So we were hit with an RSA 91A, which is a request for information. So after mediation and all that was done, the fire district received from the water district through their lawyers a request for all information up to date. We thought it was a done deal at that point with mediation, then all of a sudden we're being hit with more information, and it's like that has caused some more ripples in the waves that, depending on the outcome of this. Did that answer your question?
Further testimony, and we should be using the microphone to the extent that we possibly can. Kevin, please.
Kevin Kate Tilton. We've already said no to this twice. Commissioner Silly's comments only indicated that there was one no, but we said no this year, and we said no last year. Reading the article, I'm a little confused because as a business person, I have people who owe me money, and they pay their bills. I have rental contracts. I own an equipment rental company. So when I rent something to a customer, they to sign a rental contract that says they're going to keep it for so long of a period of time and they're going to pay that bill. This warrant article says that we need to come into, we need to pay in arrears. For what? There was no contract. We said no twice. So you guys want us to pay something that we don't owe. And as far as I understand by the separation of powers in the U.S. Constitution and in the New Hampshire Constitution, the judicial branch of government cannot force the legislative branch of government, and that's us, we are the legislative body when it comes to the fire district, to do something. And we have our attorney here, perhaps he can comment on that. But I don't understand the scare tactics from Commissioner Silly saying that, well, we may have this huge bill for something we don't owe. And I'm going to go back to my business, right? So I have to kind of gauge what my customers are going to want to rent or what they're going to want to buy. And if I buy something that a customer that no customers want to rent, and that happened to me this year, about a $30,000 piece of equipment, and I've only rented it twice. Because my customers don't want it. They did last year, but they don't want it this year. I can't force them to pay me for it. Because they don't want it. We've told the water district twice, we don't want to pay for these hydrants. Is the third time going to be a charm? Or are they going to keep going back to work? Because my perspective is, for the water district, it's all about the money. Without that $500,000, they're upside down, and they're going to need to raise their rates to the customers that they provide water to. And we've had this discussion so many times. Do we really need the fire hydrants? Who knows? How many fires this year, Chief, so far?
Chief, can you respond to that?
So today, as of today, we've had one fire. We've had to use fire hydrants to suppress the fire.
So a 3-year agreement for $500,000 is how much? Per year. It's a lot of money. For one fire. And if I remember correctly, last year we had 2 fires. And we didn't use the hydrants on either one. Shame on you guys. Shame on you for thinking that this is a good deal.
Next, Kevin, further testimony. Gretchen, please.
Good morning, Dr. Walker, Northfield. I'm sorry.
So the idea of the microphone is to be able to get the report.
I understand. My apologies. Water district formed in 2005. It's a municipality. I was on the budget committee for the fire district when it originated with Jason. At the time, we discussed this hydrant fee. It was $126,000, which equated to 10% of the water district's budget, also 10% of the fire district budget. So they were stopped back then. It seemed to me as a taxpayer extraordinary, and they explained it to me, they being the water district, explained that PUC told them the State of New Hampshire Public Utilities Commission, PUC, provided them some guidance that they are not overseen by the PUC because they're a municipality, but because they were forming this back in 05, 04, 05, they provided a little bit of guidance. This fee came out of air. There was no rationale ever provided to us how they formulated this. So, since 05, I asked at the public meeting, how much money have we provided to the water district for the hydrant fees? Just under $2 million, people. Yes, we need hydrants. You know, you'll get me up here and I'll complain about a lot of things. $2 Training is not one of them, equipment is not one of them. And hydrants, we need them, they're safety. You can't cut them off. They can put a towel over them, whatever they want to do. They can't do it. It's a safety issue. Scare tactic, whatever you want to call it. We can call it whatever we want. So we've spent just shy of $2 million since '05. Now, SB1 is saying we could have $523,000+ in the course of the next 3 to 4 years. We're paying for hydrants. And the only thing, the only justification that I have ever been provided by the water district in many meetings, including meetings with the PUC. I went down to PUC and brought people down with me. PUC was not happy to have me in their conference room because they were not involved. But because they had provided guidance, they were suddenly involved in this meeting. It's their way of self-funding. I don't have a problem with that. I work for the state of New Hampshire. I don't have a problem with people self-funding. But you gotta give me some justification, something solid, something business-like, just pulling a number out and saying, we want this. The other thing that I complained about, I got, and now is no longer done, is you may have seen over the years that some of the hydrants are green, some have orange tops, some have yellow tops, and that designates gallons per minute. Because as a customer, I thought, if these hydrants don't work, why should we pay for them? Well, when we forced the water test, again, water test, we found that some of the hydrants did not work up to NFPA, National Fire Prevention Association. Am I getting that right? Okay, thank you. I'm not great with all the acronyms. But, so I found out recently we don't even get that data sent to us. So are we paying for something that we don't really get? Why did that stop? We had a public meeting and the water district didn't show up to answer any questions. It may have been inconvenient for any of their schedules. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. This is important. Yes, I believe we should have fire hydrants. I believe they should work. Should we pay for them? I think a reasonable nominal fee. This, as a taxpayer, is extraordinary. And again, you know, they say, well, a hydrant costs less than $2,000 to install. My figures are old. My figures are old because I've been out of it for 4 or 5 years since I've been out of the budget committee. But to install them was under $2,000. It was 18-something. So we've paid just under $2 million since '05. And now you're talking over $500,000 over the next couple of years. That's a lot of money.
Thank you, Gretchen. Yes, please. Just 1 second before we proceed. So we've had a couple of people speak, and they've had plenty to say. I appreciate that very much. If we could try to keep the testimonies at 3 minutes-ish, that would be good. So if you could introduce yourself.
My name is Sabrina McPhail. I live in Tilton. And I'm wondering if we can address the water commissioners for the questions that this town has.
Thank you for your testimony. I will invite somebody from the water district, but if, the testimony is given, if there are questions that nobody wants to answer.
Can we?
Not looking at me.
Good. Talk about
Sure, go ahead.
So the question that we all have as townspeople, other than your rate study, because I tried to call, I talked to Charlene, I went to the fire commissioners meeting to understand. Now, obviously I have middle of the road interest in this stuff, but as a taxpayer, if you guys can shut us down for water, and we're paying that kind of money, why? Like, how much per hydrant does it cost to put one in, winterize it, plow it? How come we can't get that breakdown from you guys? We only get a rate study.
Right, thanks. Moderator will recognize Sean. Jay, please.
stand up, Sean.
I think
You're like
I'm
a boy.
good. No, I don't think I need to stand up. Sean Chandler, I'm Commissioner of the Water District, Chairperson of the Water District. So thank you for the question. It's great.
Yes.
Most of you know, or a lot of you know, we had a rate study done a couple of years ago. There hadn't been any rate increases in almost 20 years, 17 years. We have a lot of road projects, filtration plants, a lot of infrastructure planned in the coming years. We commissioned the rate study because we wanted to know if we were going to have enough money to be able to complete all those projects, many of which are federally mandated, so we don't really have a choice. Okay? That's part of being in a water district. I know there's a lot of people here who are not in the water district and you've got issues with that. I understand that. But the water district still has to raise enough money in the coming years to be able to provide for that infrastructure and all of those projects that are being forced on us. That's what the rate study was for. So we commissioned a company called Raftellus out of Massachusetts, one of the most highly respected water rate study companies in the country. Worked with them for many, many months to come up with a rate study. Those figures are in the rate study. If you've looked at it, you'll see what the per hydrant charge is.
You know what it is? I'm not a water customer, so I don't know that.
It's on the website.
Okay.
So you can go onto the Tilton Northfield Water District website, click on rate study, and you'll be able to read every word of it. To your question, because we've heard similar complaints about that over the last year. We heard it in the March meeting here, which I was at. We heard it before then. People want to know, how is that figure arrived at? How do you come up with that figure? The best answer that I can give for that, based on what Raftellus has indicated to us, is that it's based on the size of the water district, the infrastructure that's planned, the projects that are going to need to be implemented in the coming years. So it's a forecast of where you need to be able to pay for all of those projects that are federally mandated. And it's also based on a comparison of other water district, water companies in the New England area of a similar size. So Raftellus looks at our numbers, our current numbers, does a forecast for what those numbers should actually be. And we were told, quite frankly, the numbers that you currently are charging in your rates are dangerously low. You have not done an increase in 17 years. No company that I know of, maybe there are folks here who know companies that can survive without doing a rate increase over 17 years. I don't know of any. And quite frankly, I think it's bad business if you're a company and you don't have a basis by which you can decide where you need to be with your rates. So you all could, in your minds, say, we're pulling things out of thin air. We're doing the best that we can to try to come up with a rate that will be able to allow the water district to survive, given all of the projects that we need I don't, so I think that the other thing that concerns me, and I know there's a lot of disagreement on this, is that people want to look at fire hydrants, one fire hydrant. What's the cost of one fire hydrant? We need to know how much does it cost to maintain that one fire hydrant. It's a little frustrating to hear that, because it's not just the fire hydrant itself. It's the system, it's the pumps, it's the wells, it's the electricity, it's the staff, it's it's the benefits that you have to pay for your staff, it's the insurances that you have to pay to keep everything going. If people think we're hiding the 8 ball, then come to a water district meeting. Okay, see that's just frustrating to me, Sabrina. I love you, by the way. But it is frustrating to hear that kind of thing. Well, I'm not a water district user, so I can't come. I'm here to tell you, okay, and you can call me a liar if you come to a water district meeting and I don't let you speak. If you're a member of the public, it's a public meeting.
Mr. Moderator, you indicated 3 minutes for testimony.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin.
I appreciate the time, thank you.
Thanks very much.
I don't know if I answered the question.
But I think you did, and I appreciate that very much. So.
I feel like I'm shut off now. I feel like I feel like I got shut down. Did I get shut down?
You haven't been shut down. If you'd like to follow up, if you have a request from the moderator, do it, please.
I feel like.
If you'd like to follow up.
Well, so my question being, like, if we're all on your system, because I think that's the problem. There's a lot of people in town not all on your system. So I understand what you're saying as far as your system goes. But if there's not a hydrant by my home that's going to help my home if it catches on fire, why as a taxpayer do I want to pay that kind of money? It's not on your system.
Yeah, right. Sean, you can't have a back and forth. You can't have a back and forth. I'd be happy to recognize you.
That's my question. I want to know.
Well, that's fine. I just put it in your question.
All right, so I'm going to recognize in this order. I think Kevin was first. You, sir, Paul, and Mike. So Kevin, please.
I will yield to the public if there's no call for a question of violations.
Fair enough. So what he said, he yields to the public to speak first, as long as the question doesn't get called prior to that. And that will be my ruling, if that's the case, because I see 4 people. Yes, sir.
Peter Fogg, Tilton. My recollection is when Money Emerson and Money did the construction project, the PUC allowed them a fee of $1,800 per year per hydrant for approximately $125,000 to cover part of the cost of that bond. So my question is, the bond from around 2000, when is the payoff date? Has it been paid off, or is it a 30-year bond?
Thank you, Peter. Can somebody respond to the question? No one is. We don't have an answer to your question, Peter. All right, Paul, please.
Paul Blaisdell from Northfield. And Peter may have just answered my question, but I have in my hand the Raftellus rate study from 2019, and all of the proposed rates for both 2019 and further on through 2025 were based upon a cost per hydrant of $456. And that number was derived by taking $126,000 that we had previously been paying and dividing it by the number of active hydrants. So it's like we're asking, and Peter brings up a great question, what's the value of these, and how long is that value going to be paid by us? And basically what has happened is that the water district used, the Raftellus used that number to say, that's the money you need to recuperate, and you're going to recuperate $126,000 from the fire district. And then in 2020, it's going to be more, 2021, it's on and on. it's as if that value of the fire hydrant was kind of backdoor calculated. We took what we were paying and we divided by the number of hydrants, and now that's the value. And I guess, I've asked everybody in this, at the front of in these tables, with the exception of Attorney Fitzgerald, what's the value of a hydrant? How do we determine that? And nobody has an answer. So what I would really like to know is if the water district can provide what the cost of installing, maintaining, and supplying a fire hydrant is. Not what Raftella says it is, what they say it is. And if they cannot do that, then my feeling is that we pay for the water we use, just like a regular customer. We don't pay for phantom water. We pay for the water that we use, even if it's an estimated value per fire. Just like if I had a meter inside the basement of my home. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Paul. If you'd hand the mic to
Good morning, Mike Robinson, Tilton Town resident, current acting deputy chief, and I do not live in the Hydrant District. I'm outside the district. A couple of comments. As I come to these meetings, it's perfectly legal to do what's been done, and I respect someone's, but we start the meeting off with, we're going to table it. We didn't even get a chance to hear what it's all about. And these are tactics that are used typically, and I always like to hear and learn what the original comment's all about before we even table. But anyways, the other thing is we asked someone to explain to us, we cut them off at 3 minutes. I hope we get a chance if there's more questions. My other comment is, the water district is run by local people whose parents have lived here, their grandparents have lived here, and served the community. And I think I'm pleased that we're dealing with those people, not some huge conglomerate out of Nashville. We're dealing with people that live here and whose parents have lived here. So far as the need for the hydrants, I've been an active member of the department for 46 years. We had a few years that the hydrants weren't too active, but I also sat on a mill fire for 8 hours one night at 2,600 gallons a minute, and then 2 more days after that at approximately 1,000 gallons a minute. I think we made out that year. A couple of comments made, and it bothers me that someone said, shame on you to the commissioners. I know the hard work you've had to do on this, and all the legal and time you put into it. So please, don't take that comment as shame on you. Thank you for the work that you do. I guess I want to dig into this a little bit, and please watch me on my 3 minutes because I may get cut off. What have been our legal costs in all of this? Roughly?
Can somebody respond to that, please?
Significant? $30,000, $40,000? No.
I think at the last meeting, and this is raw numbers, we're up around 18,000 this year. If that's not an exact number, please don't hold me to it. I'm sorry, the total altogether is about 30,000.
About 30,000.
So, thank you.
All right. All right, so we got
Mike, would you like to follow up? Would you like a follow-up question? To bring another question to.
Yes, I do have another question. And please keep me in line. I'm a pretty good firefighter. I don't always do well on the legal side. Okay, what's our outlook to this whole thing? And I'll heed towards the attorney. Because Sean is correct, I did some research. Our rates haven't gone up. I'm close to 20 years. And this district has supported, up until the last 2 years, has supported funding this for the 46 years that I've been coming to these meetings. Now, does that establish a precedence? When we get into a jury trial, who is judged by a jury of our peers, do they look at it and say, hey, you guys have supported this thing for my knowledge 46 years and possibly even longer. Why is it all right for 46 years and now it's not? Now you don't want to pay your bill?
We don't have a bill.
And so I guess I'll heed to, what's the outlook look like? I mean, somebody said we don't know it because we didn't use it. Well, 2 years ago, I can think of a few fires that we did use it. And one of them was a building 3 miles outside of the nearest hydrant. What's our outlook? Obviously, we got to this point where we had to go to a mediator, and they said, hey, somebody's got a point here. You people need to sit down and work this out. What does saying no? Where does that get us? Does this break down to approximately the $120,000 to $130,000 a year breakdown? We've got our back due, and then we've got what we owe, but I mean, the rate hasn't gone up significantly on an annual basis, has it?
All right, thank you, Mike. It's, well, we respect it's kind of an open-ended question. We have some other people who would like to speak. I appreciate very much. I'd like to recognize some other people for the floor.
Thank you. I asked you to cut me off.
No offense. I will offer the opportunity to respond concisely, but if there isn't a response, that's okay. It's an open-ended question. Okay, seeing none. All right, so I didn't realize that you meant to speak when you stood up also.
Matters or Northfield. Okay. We all have car insurance on our cars, right? You complain about that every year. This water system, hydrants, is cheap insurance for the town. People that live up on School Street, we may have to tag the fire hydrant down at the bottom of School Street to get your house, or off of Clark Road, or whatever it may be. But like Mike Robinson just said, we use the fire hydrants to protect your houses, and, you know, I don't sound like a dummy, but it just, nobody understands that, okay, this gentleman lives 6 miles out of the way, well, there's no water. We use that hydrant, that's the closest. We've used Franklin's hydrants on Shaw Road. You know, that's what people don't understand. You know, it's cheap insurance, folks. That's all I got.
All right, thank you, Mike. So I got Kevin Waldron, Kevin Kate, and then Pat, if you were intending to speak. So Kevin, you will continue teaching English. It's okay with me, but just do remember that any ruling by me can be overturned by the Supreme Court.
Kevin K. Tilton. Point of information that wasn't made clear is that we can, Gretchen mentioned it, but I don't think it was clear, we can use the hydrants whether we're paying this or not. There's an RSA that says that we can use them. And I also believe that they cannot be turned off because they are required for emergency responses. Yes, I did say shame on you, and I'm going to say shame on you guys. Again, I'm a business owner. If I could raise my rates for the 10 years that I owned my business so far, I'd be out of business. You guys should be too. 17 years? 17 years. Anybody here paying the same they were paying for bread 17 years ago? Or gas? Or, as Paul mentioned, homeowners insurance? No. So because they've mismanaged the water district, they now want us to pay $523,000. And it's going to keep going up and keep going up. So here's a question for Sean, if you care to answer. Did you guys apply for any of the federal funding?
Yes.
And did you get any?
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm going to recognize Sean just briefly to respond to questions. What we have to try to avoid is back and forth. So when somebody asks a question, stop. So please do, if you'd like to.
The question that Kevin just asked? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. We did apply and received some federal funding for a filtration plant that is scheduled to go online hopefully next year. I understand the point of a lot of people is why should why should the fire district have to pay for a filtration plant? We're not asking the fire district to pay for a filtration plant, but we're asking the fire district to pay a fair share of being part of the water district system. And the water district system has to be able to survive going forward. Now, I'll say in response to Kevin's point about no rate increases in 17 years as being irresponsible, guilty as charged on that. I'm not going to defend that. I wasn't around 17 years ago, and I'm not trying to say that I don't feel somewhat responsible, because I did, even though I've only been a commissioner for a few years. But what's our choice? I think the comment about that Kevin was making was actually sort of proving the point that this is a reason why we need to have a rate increase. But the rate increases that we're proposing here are 4% per year. I mean, I don't see that as price gouging myself, but we have to try to bring rates back into some line in order to be able to continue to exist going forward. Otherwise, we will end up being part of a big conglomerate from Nashville. And I don't mean that as a scare tactic. I'm just saying that that's a concern of ours, being commissioners of our water district. I want it to continue to survive. I'm a part of this community, and I see it as an important, functioning utility, essentially. Water is essential, and we use it in many different ways. And I think without it, we're in big trouble. And I think without fire hydrants, we're in big trouble too.
Thank you very much for your thoughtful consideration. Scott Haskins. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Scott Haskins. Why? I don't mind paying for water at a fire. Why? And this question's been asked before, and I haven't got a correct answer, but I don't mind paying for the amount of water being used on a fire. So is that a possible thing? Like, I'm not on the water district, but if Matt's house is on fire, I don't mind paying the amount of water coming out. We live in a community. I don't mind paying for the amount. If it's $500,000 that one fire, divide everybody up, I feel more comfortable paying more because it's getting used. So I don't know if that's possible or if that's not even discussed.
Thank you, Scott. Hand that to Pat, please, actually. No, Pat, please. Is anybody? Right.
Now, I just want to add.
Pat, just one second, please. We had an open question. Is there anybody from the commission here to respond or others? Well, the question was, can we pay by the water use?
Microphone's on the table, worse. He does that. Excellent.
Thank you, Ryan.
Okay, thank you. So that's not part of the contract as of right now for usage. I think that would be a great opportunity if that was to be put into place. I think that this is Commissioner Silly, one of three, saying that there should be a maintenance fee per hydrant because they do have to winterize them. They do have to check them out after we use them. So as part of a agreement to what I would be more comfortable with, there should be a maintenance and then a usage fee. We can meter how much water we use, and there should be a fee for that, absolutely. I truly believe that's the way it should be. The system is great, but the system is present whether the fire district is using it or not. So they are supplying water to their customers. They have to supply filtered water to their customers. The stuff that comes out of the hydrants for us can be groundwater. It is water. We pull it from the river. The filtration system, what they have to have in place, pumps, yes. Storage tank, yes. Things like that are important for us to have that water on standby. There should be a small fee for water in reserve as insurance so that we can pull from it. And we probably should be billed as how much water we use for that. If we have a bad year, we have to use the hydrant system for 10, 15, 5 fires, we should be appropriately billed for that because that is appropriate for usage. There should be a small maintenance fee of standby. Paying for this whole system, we had to go to court. We were taken to court. So people are saying scare tactics. That was not a scare tactic. We had no choice but to go to court. We had no choice but to pay legal fees for 2 years. We agreed to something to work towards the court findings. If we did not go to mediation, if we did not try to work it out, then we were not in good faith. We had to do all these processes. If this fails, we have to go to court still. If it doesn't, that's fine. This is all for the people, and we want you to have the best informed answers for everything. That is why we brought this forward. We came to what mediators we somewhat agreed with. I have mixed feelings on this vote, and that's how I would vote myself. But yes, that would be a much better contract that I would love to see brought to the commissioners from this.
Thank you, John. All right, before we go any further, I guess what I'd like to say is that this is among the most difficult meetings I've ever moderated. It's difficult. I know there's a lot of strong feelings about it in both directions, but we do need to try to have testimony come through the moderator and not name names. You know, I mean, we know who we're talking to, etc. But please, for decorum's sake, ideally, we be sending testimony, responding to questions through the moderator, and so that we can get a full recording of it, one, but also just the civil proceedings. So the moderator is going to recognize Kevin Walden.
Thank you. I take exceptions to the words, and I quote from the article, necessary for fire suppression. To use those words is both leading and misleading. The definition of necessary is required to be done or achieved. Using those words will lead people to believe that we have to have hydrants to suppress fire, which is absolutely untrue. Truth is, the vast majority of the district has no hydrants. The way the article is worded contains bias, bordering on fear-mongering, and that is wrong. TNFD annual meeting, March 15th, 2021. Article 13 sought $629,942 for a 5-year agreement. Commissioners recommended passage. Budget Committee did not. Article failed. No, number 1. TNFD annual meeting, March 14th, 2022. Article 13 again. Sought $500,000 for a 5-year agreement. Commissioners recommended passage. Budget Committee did not. Article failed. So 5 years for $629,000, no, number 1. $500,000 for 5 years, no, number 2. Here we are today being asked for $523,000 for a 3-year agreement. So we've gone up $23,000 and lost 2 years. I'm not sure how that can even be presented to you people with a straight face. Can't wrap my head around it. Somebody's not listening, folks. Somebody's not listening. How many times do you have to be told no before no means no? The fire commission is listening? I'm not convinced they are. Is the water district listening? Absolutely not. When they were told no, they turned to bully tactics and shut the water off. So we had to go to court to get it turned back on. The water district is unwilling or unable to quantify the cost of providing hydrant service. When the water district became the water district as we know it, the water district took on considerable debt load. That debt needs to be paid. But truth be told, that debt is not our debt, and that debt is not our responsibility. I believe that water district remains unable and unwilling to quantify the cost of the hydrant because they're not trying to quantify the cost of the hydrant, rather they're trying to cover their debt. I'm going as fast as I can.
Please keep it to 3 minutes.
So it occurs to me that the water district feels that just because they have water for sale, we absolutely have to buy it. I think not. I've been told that since the time the last agreement expired, we've used approximately 20,000 gallons of water district water. The amount of money they want to quote unquote come current makes that more than $6 a gallon. When did water become more costly than gasoline for your car or heating oil for your home? Water is not a more than $6 a gallon commodity. I don't know anyone who would oppose paying a fair price for hydrant service. But how is a fair price arrived at? A good start would be to meter what we use, and pay a fair price for what we use. That's how homes and businesses that have municipal water are charged. They pay for what they use. Pretty simple concept. There are those that say if we have no hydrants, our insurance rates will go up. But your rates are going to go up anyway. It's going to be more related to the cost of replacement cost relative to the surge in building material cost than anything else. Now remember, I'm not suggesting to go without hydrants. I'm not. I'm suggesting we stand firm, pay for the water we use at a fair price. For those that say if we don't approve this and give the water district the money, there will be an increase in water users. That could be. But aren't the users the ones who should pay the bulk of the cost of the system? No one helps anyone with a private water system. Clearly, the fire district uses less water than the remainder of the users. I believe that if all users, including the fire district, paid for what they used, everyone would be better off. The proposed agreement is a bad deal for more reasons than just the money. It calls for fill lines in each station which will meter the water so that they can meter it. It's not willing to do it that way. The meter the water going into the apparatus that will billed separately from the hydrant charge, but doesn't mention what that charge will be. So I guess the smart thing to do would be to fill the apparatus with a fixed price hydrant before using the meter lines at the stations. The agreement limits our ability to train with the water system. The agreement limits our ability to train with the water system to 4 trainings within a 60-minute time cap. It makes no mention of what time frame these 4 trainings take place in. Is it 4 times a day, 4 times a week, 4 times a year, 4 times a month, or 4 times during the term of the agreement? Further, it requires district supervision of the trainings. If the trainings are after hours, guess what? They're going to bill us for that supervision.
Any questions, time left?
Yeah, if you could probably kind of wrap it up, Kevin, please.
I'll get right.
I suggest we cut him off. We cut off the other person in the middle of the conversation.
I'll come back.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Pat, please.
Now, I seem to recall that we had X number of hydrants in place when the rates were first set up 17 years ago. And how many more hydrants have we installed since that time?
I think the fire district has about 100. I don't know what they were.
All right, if you're gonna
I'll go through the moderator, I'm sorry.
So as I understand it, the question is how many more hydrants do we have since 17 years ago? Does anyone have a? No.
Another issue he came up with, why not use dirty water? Why you'd have to have two systems, one for drinking water and one for dirty water if you want to do that. And that would be very expensive to pull off. So I don't think that's possible or affordable. And as far as insurance goes, or how many times you use it, you know, metering the water that you use, that doesn't make sense either. In my book, you have to be able to cover the responsibility for all those hydrants to make sure that they're operational in case there is a fire in one neighborhood or another, and you can deal with it. And as far as being outside of the hydrant area, that's why they built tanker trucks, and that's why we have mutual aid. Several different surrounding communities have tanker trucks, and we can continue to fill them up and bring them to an existing fire outside of the hydrant district. So I'd like to point that out, but I haven't seen any argument yet that tells me that we should pay our bill, and I'd like to have people resoundingly vote for covering this.
Thank you, Beth. See Mike, please.
Just another quick comment. There was a comment made about commissioners questioning their job in this whole thing. You took the ball, you ran with it, it ended up in court, and here we are. Again, not a pretty process by any means, but it is where we are. I guess I want to go back to a question I had earlier. Where are we? What's our outlook in the legal system for this? And the other question I've got, there was a question that came up to me. Is this $523,000 4 years, including 2 years of back pay, or is it, because I see 2024, maybe I got my years confused, but we owe for 2 years, which is the 256, is that correct? And then we're asking for 2 more years in the contract. Okay, but I think we need that clarification. So 2 years of back pay, and then we're looking, we don't have to pay the other 256 now. It'll be paid in the next 2 years' budgets, is that correct? Okay, so we're looking at 4 years, again, approximately $130,000 a year. All right, but I want to go back to the question is, does anybody have a gut feeling on where this is going to go in the legal system, and can you discuss it? Because if we say no today, it sounds like it could possibly go to a jury trial. Is that correct?
Thanks, Mike. Yes, Charles.
Sorry, I would like to recognize our lawyer, if he's comfortable with that, and speaking to what level we can speak to answer that question. The other commissioners don't have a concern with that.
Well, thanks, Mike. Moderator, recognize Paul Fitzgerald.
Thank you. Good morning. If anyone of you were to be sued this morning for civil damages as a result of an automobile accident, you probably wouldn't want your lawyer to hold a press conference outlining your trial strategy and his or her feelings as to what was going to happen. So I've got to be a little deliberately vague in answering the question. It's certainly a reasonable question. You want to get some guidance as to where this might end up. I will tell you that I think that Commissioner Silly is absolutely correct when he spoke earlier this morning. There are a range of possibilities that the court could fashion to resolve this issue. The one gentleman who spoke earlier today indicated that a court could not tell a legislative body what to do. Quite accurate. Courts settle disputes between legislative bodies or involving legislative bodies frequently. And this is a dispute between two separate and equal legislative bodies. So the court will step in and it will fashion a remedy. What no lawyer would predict for you, or at least shouldn't predict for you, is exactly what that remedy is going to be. At one extreme, it's possible the court could look at this and say, okay, we're going to base something that's based on usage here. I don't think it's likely that it's going to go just on that. The court's going to look and see that there is a well-built-out, sophisticated water system, and that system needs to be maintained, and as was pointed out earlier, there are a number of costs that are associated with it. So the court will add a factor for the infrastructure, the maintenance of that infrastructure, and the operation. The water system will present their rate study, I assume, and perhaps another, the water commissioners rather, will present their rate studies, and I presume additional information. The fire district will respond. Perhaps there'll be involvement by the budget committee, I don't know. But ultimately, some authority beyond this meeting is going to have the ability to resolve the dispute. And the dispute is not going to end up with there being absolutely no or minimal payment for the operation of the system that I'm discussing. I can't get any more specific than that because, as I said, it's not appropriate for me to discuss it publicly in terms of what we're going to do and what I think is actually likely here, particularly with our opponents sitting right here in the room. I don't mean opponents in the sense that we're facing off this morning. There are legal opponents, and they understand that, we understand that. I hope that provides some assistance and answers your question to a certain degree. Thank you for the time and letting me speak.
Thank you, Paul. All right.
Can I make a motion to table?
You want to table? You sure that's what your motion is? Okay. There is I'm sorry. Motion to table. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Sean. Okay. What is the clarification?
The results of tabling. What is the result of a friendly vote to table?
The result of a friendly vote to table means you can't take it back up at this meeting unless there is a vote to reconsider it. All right, so it's been moved and seconded to table the Article SD1. There can be no further discussion on that. Mike?
Is the result of tabling the same, if it is not taken up again today, is that the same as the defeat?
Well, if the meeting ends and it's not taken up again, essentially, it's not a defeat, it's just not ruled on.
Moderator, so my intent was to table the discussion and go to call.
I wonder if that might have been the case. Would you like to withdraw your motion? Yeah. Would you like to withdraw your motion? Okay. Withdraw the motion. All right. So there was a motion to table. I think what she was intending to do is call a question.
Yes.
Yes. So both withdrawing? Okay. I thought that might be what you meant. Would you like to make a motion now? You've been recognized.
I make a motion to call the question.
All right. Is there a second? Thank you. Moved and seconded to call the question. There can be no further debate. Has to be 2/3 majority for this motion to pass. I'm going to try a voice vote. Those in favor of calling the question on SB1, please signify so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Moderator is not in doubt. Motion passes. So we are calling the question. We're going to go to a vote. As it is, there have been no motions passed to amend the article, so it is as follows. 2C, if the district will vote to authorize the commissioners to become current through June 30th, 2022 and enter into a 3-year agreement beginning July 1st, 2022 and ending June 30th, 2025 in the amount of $523,322 for the purpose of providing pressurized hydrant services necessary for the fire suppression and raise and appropriate $256,000 for this year with said funds to come from the December 31st, 2021 unassigned fund balance. This article is recommended by the Board of Commissioners and is not recommended by the Budget Committee. Majority vote is required. All right, we are going to do this by ballot vote. So before we do that, I would just, for my own edification, I want to get a clarification from and I'm going to go speak to them, the supervisors of the checklist. I want to know how many people have been signed in as registered voters, so that we can compare that to what we get for votes, and make sure we don't have this kind of discrepancy. So one moment, please. We have 57 total voters that are represented here in the Assembly. So that's important information to make sure we don't end up with more than that. So I'm not seeing this number being prohibitive. Sometimes I split up things. We don't have to be open for an hour. We just have to be open long enough so that the moderator feels comfortable that everybody's had the opportunity to vote. All right, so in an orderly manner, if you would make your way to your supervisors of the checklist to get your ballots, bring your cards so that they can check those out, and then as you go, make your way down to this box and deposit your vote. Thank you.
Hey, Mike. How are you, my friend? Good to see you. You know,
Six of us, I said, we should watch it. Right? Go this way.
Okay, folks, anybody who is, oh, here comes Kevin. He was just finishing his testimony. I'm going to give it a couple more minutes, just to make sure, absolutely sure. Also, just a clarification, we did end up with 58 voters. One of our sound guys, Josh, hadn't checked in. He is present. All right, is there anybody who has yet to put in their ballot in the box, registered voter? Going once, going twice, 3 times for the T-bone steak and baked potato. All right, thank you. I'm gonna call the ballot box closed. And if I get my assistant moderator to join me with the clerk of works.
No, she said no.
thank you all once again for coming, taking part in this town district meeting, fire district. Appreciate your participation. Appreciate the commission, the budget committee, town's attorney, and certainly Kathy and Stephanie for their help throughout this whole business, preparing for the meeting and conducting it. We did have 58 registered voters here. There were 41 no votes, 15 yes votes. There's one blank ballot, and the remaining ballot that would make 58 is the moderator. The moderator doesn't vote unless there's a need to break a tie. So the motion to, yes, the article fails, so declare it, and completes our business unless there's other business to be taken, although we don't actually have that on the agenda. Absolutely. All right, so it's moved and seconded to protect the vote, that is to restrict reconsideration under RSA 4410. So moved and seconded, is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, those in favor of protecting your vote under 4410, please signify so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Moderator is not in doubt. Votes protected. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. That's seconded. Any discussion on that? Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much. Thanks very much to Brian and Josh Donka for the sound today. Really appreciate it. Thanks very much to the supervisor for the checklist. Can't do these meetings without them. Thank you.
Are you hitting him straight?
Am I getting?
Are you hitting him straight?
Most of the time.
Yes,
No,
I don't want
I don't hit them nearly as much now that I got gold on my pin.
Yeah.
I'm here more than I'm there. Used to be the other way around.